Hello, hi guys. All right, so this video is gonna be different, and the reason why I want to do this is very simple. And I wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts, reflections, and reasons why I read the books that I read. I know I already shared a little bit of my thoughts when I did the newbie book tag, but this one is going to be different. And it's simply because I want to talk about Black History Month. And it's the reason why I took so long before actually doing a wrap up. Well, you know what? Let's get into it. And I'm not even sure I should do a whole introduction, but hey, my name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. So before I speak of all the books that I read for the month of February, I wanted to share with you guys, as I mentioned, my thoughts. I know during Black History Month, a lot of people go in different directions, especially about the booktube world. You know, people like to read specifically books by Black authors, and with that, some people like to choose fiction books, romance books, and some of us, we like to choose, non-fictional books in order to learn about Black History Month. So for me, I've always been drawn to historical fiction, okay? And my reasoning is that I don't have that time to read those extensive books that some of these authors go through in order for them to bring us the fictional books, because usually those historical fictional books are based on actual historical facts, right? So they go through all that research and they take the time to read all those books and compile so much information and bring it to us. And I'm grateful for that. And those are the books I just compelled to read, okay? When I chose all those books that I read for the month of February, a lot of them were heavy, you guys, really heavy. And I know I would love to be one of those people that can just read a book about a slave narrative and kind of dismiss it, and that's it, and tell you that, it has not affected me or something like that. And that's not true. I am a very emotional person, and these books have affected me and always have. So before I even get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about where I come from. As many of you know, I come from Congo. Congo, the third largest country in Africa, very rich in natural resources, but unfortunately is torn by war and an endless war. And today we know that it won't stop. But I left there when I was, I think, 9 or 10 years old. So I did primary school here. And I remember when I asked my parents, what was the reason for us to have left? I don't think my mom told me, but once I grew up, and I believe I was 14, 15 in high school, I started guessing or discovering that I know there was war. That's basically the main reason why people leave Congo. And also, I know my mom said that she wanted to give us an opportunity, better opportunities and stuff like that, which, again, grateful to her for giving us that opportunity. So when I first came here, you guys, obviously there was a culture shock that hits you. One was that I came in a country where it was really diverse. It's Canada, it's very diverse. And I would see these Black people that looked like me, you guys, but somehow we were different. And I didn't know a lot back then, because remember, I'm 9, yeah? So when I was in high school, I discovered I was friends with Jamaicans, Haitians, Somalians, and of course, Canadians. And I was a Congolese girl. There weren't a lot of Congolese girls there, but we were friends. And I realized that Somalians thought differently about Caribbeans. They actually had a term that described Caribbeans. It's weird to me because I felt like Caribbeans and we look the same. We have the same features more than, Somalians and but yet they felt that because we're Africans, we're sort of. Anyways, long story short, I started discovering a lot about Blacks in Canada. And I remember my first introduction to how Black people, I guess, in general felt was this girl. She was Jamaican. And I remember we're just having conversation about slavery and Blacks and stuff like that. And I don't know what I asked her, but she said she was more white than Black. Yo, That comment shocked the hell out of me. I was like, who says that? What kind of comment is that? It is only many years after, literally recently, that I would come to understand the aftermath, the legacy that slavery left, not only on the African continent, but in the Caribbean world, when it came to colorism, when it came to wanting to distance yourself from your African ancestry, and just all of that, what it played. And back then it didn't make sense to me, but now I understand. I understand after reading Toussaint Louverture's book and discovering how a lot of Black people wanted to distance themselves from their African ancestry, and until today, how colorism is still pregnant and is still prevalent in those societies, even in Congo and the African continent. Now I understand. So fast forward, she said what she said, and we literally did not become friends after that. But what I realized is that my other Haitian friend, we were really close. We understood and accepted that she could draw her ancestry from Africa. Again, back to Black History Month, I did the mistake of going on TikTok. Yo, don't do that, especially during Black History Month. A lot of things are being said, and it's just, sometimes if you're not careful, it can literally drain you. So I saw all these videos circulating about Black Americans and Africans and all that stuff, and that whole divide, it hurts, because I mean, especially for me personally, no one sent me to go and read about slaves or things like that. And I can tell you honestly, in Congo, the school system does not teach us about slavery. And I even asked my husband, because obviously I didn't study there. I'm like, do you guys? And he's like, no, we don't really talk about that. It's not our heritage, But then I'm not sure about Ghana, because I know Ghana and those, the Gold Coast back then and all those parts, maybe they teach about slavery. But then I have my Ghanaian friend, she's also my neighbor. We talked about it. She's like, no, we don't really spend time in schools talking about slavery. It's only when you arrive here that you are thrown in the world of, where you're very conscious of being Black and the need to talk about it. It's in this society, here, but not on the African continent. And please do not be mad at the African continent for not talking about slavery. It's simply because we were left with the colonization, and that has also done a lot of damages besides slavery. So I think we speak more about colonization more than slavery. But so these videos will circulate on TikTok, and some Black Americans will be like, there was one person that said, oh, Africans should be grateful because it is because of them that we paved the way so that we could actually come freely into our colonizers' lands. Hey, there is truth to that. I'm not denying it, but it's the way the message was passed on. I guess he was coming from the fact that maybe some Africans felt superior to Black Americans. Yo, like I said, and I've seen those videos of people who think that way. So again, I never comment on those things, but I like to read people's comments on those videos. So my only thing that I want to say in front of you guys is that there is truth to what he said. But again, when I look about the path of Blacks outside of the African continent, there's always that source that will tie you back to the African continent. So today, the fact that Black people were able or fought for their liberties, their freedom, civil rights, all of that stuff, don't forget that you're descendants of the slain Africans that were taken from the continent. So you have that spirit, that fighting spirit that traversed the continent throughout those, ancestors, and hence the people who fought for those freedoms. And funny thing is, I bet he doesn't even know what was going on during that time in the African continent. Many, many battles were being fought on the African continent while Black people were fighting for their freedoms here. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that certain times people want to say certain things, but then it's the way you want to pass on the message? And have you looked at all the factors surrounding what you're about to say before you pass on that message? You know what I mean, y'all? So anyways, I just thought that was like, he said what he said. I want to say another comment that this other lady, and she was, I think, on a news anchor or something like that, and she spoke about why is it that she needs to be called African American. There's nothing African about her. Yo, listen, okay. And the comments were wild, unhinged, because, and some of them I agreed, some of them I was like, whoo. Listen, this other woman was like, she actually responded, she did a full video, responded. She was from Africa, somewhere in Africa. She's like, first off, we understand your need of wanting to be, I guess, to just be called American. Yeah, you have about 400, 500 on the American soil. That is your right, no problem. And she also said that sometimes maybe the reason why you're called African American is to give you a source, like to give you a root, to give you like, you know, like a base. But if you want to sever that base, that root, you are free. You can call yourself American. She also said the example of, do Caribbeans, Jamaicans call themselves African Jamaicans or African Haitians? Hey, like I said, she said what she had to say and the comments were very clear. So again, I want to respond to this in here because, as I said, it was a lot, you know, it all comes out during Black History Month. That's where all these things just come out. So for me, when I read that, when I seen that comment, of course, being African, it hurts, you know, to see that, like I told you guys, I see Black people that look like me, but we're not the same. I want to say we're the same people, but like we're not the same because our cultures are very diverse, the way we talk, you know, and all that stuff. So, but when you have someone that legit bluntly tells you that I'm not African American, and it's with such disdain, you know, it hits you, it rubs you the wrong way. So in a society where everyone identifies as they want, hey, identify as just American. It's your prerogative. Identify as African American. It's your prerogative. You know, if you want to sever that African ancestry, it's your prerogative. Some of those Africans were like, we're not going to miss, so we're still going to, you know, the world is still going to move on. You know, Africa is still going to be Africa, you know, with or without you. You know what I mean? But also, I've seen comments of Black Americans who embrace their Africanness, who remembered that their ancestry derived from Africa, and to sever that link is to completely lose yourself and all that stuff. And they were able to see so many similarities in our cultures, like for example, in, you know, in our spirituality, in our food preparation, in all those stuff. And for me, those were the things I was like, oh, you know, like I love that, you know, I love that. So anyways, you guys, I wanted to talk about all of this because it has affected me personally, because coming to a world and you don't know these things. Like when I came here, you guys, I grew up in Canada. I was never conscious of my Blackness until I grew up and started seeing what was going on out there in the United States, even here at home. You know, big cities like Toronto, Montreal, how they treated people because of their skin. Like you're very conscious of these things here. On the African continent, I asked my parents, everybody else, they're like, the only things that you worry about on the continent is regular stuff like food and functioning of the country, like, you know, things like that. But then there is obviously the prevalent issue of colorism, of course. Light skin, being of light skin, being of dark skin, and how dark skin is usually negative and things like that. And of course, those are still really, you know, prevalent in our societies. Not only on the African continent, but everywhere, even in the Caribbean, in, you know, America, UK, wherever black people are, unfortunately, those issues are still there. And us Black people, I realize, continue to feed that kind of problematic stigma. You know, the whole, you're light skin, you're better, you're dark skin, you're ugly. All of that stuff, we continue to encourage that, and we need to stop. Literally, that whole divide is not serving anyone. It's continued to divide us, and we need to be united. So anyways, you guys, there was all of these things, and the book that I read, I wanted to also get all of this off my chest so that when I speak of the books, I'm not too emotional about the books. I want to talk about the books as professionally as I can, leave all my feelings and thoughts in this video, okay? So I'm gonna conclude, you guys. You know, when you're part of this book world, booktube world, you almost feel like everyone reads now, you know, like it's a thing, you know, it's a thing, because I've seen so many Black booktubers who read books, and I've met so many people in my world that also read. You almost believe that no, people read, you know. I also wanted to mention that I had read about how Black people were forbidden to read a long time ago, way back, when I started reading books about slavery and stuff like that. And that had already accentuated my need to break that cycle. And I already had the love for reading. Like I mentioned in my newbie book tag there, that I wanted to read from the time I was 9 years old. Like it was in me, it's innate, it's in me. I cannot separate myself for this. It's a calling inside of me, you know what I mean? So already with that, and knowing that our people were forbidden to read, it has fueled already what's inside of me, and I'm gonna read this world, you know what I mean? Like literally before I pass on, I will read everything, you know. But anyways, you guys, so that's all I wanted to share. And I want to say this: I love you all. I love Blacks of all shades, Black people here and there, Black people everywhere around the world. Just remember, we're the same people. We're descendant from the African continent, and let's stop this whole wanting to separate yourself from Africa. Is beautiful, and there is beauty, there is honor, there is something grand to want to associate yourself with Africa. And I will talk about that in the books that I would share with you that I read in the month of February. So that's it, you guys. So again, thank you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.